Is it recording?
So sorry, guys.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, okay. Awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here.
There, soon.
Sit down.
Okay.
Thank you for being here. For some of you that are in person and to our virtual participants who will eventually sign in. We will share the recording with everyone and the slides. And this is the first of 3 workshop events we're gonna have. This will cover like a lot of the informative, what is it like to apply to grad school? What are some basic considerations and some of the application components? The second workshop will focus on like how do you meet those deadlines and complete your application components, request letters of rec, things of that nature. And then lastly, for folks that are currently preparing their applications and will be applying this year, probably in December or early January, we're gonna have a session where we pair you up with a grad student at UCSC so they can help you workshop your materials. And so this is Grad School 101, Life After College, brought to you by Undocumented Student Services, which means that our information, aside from being comprehensive overall for what to consider for grad school, it has an undocumented student focus. So some additional special considerations when you are undocumented, and I'll be facilitating this mostly because I am undocumented, very open about my status, and you can ask me anything about applying to grad school from this perspective. But
just want to emphasize that the meeting the deadline second workshop of the workshops for this quarter is next Friday, the November 17th. USS will like send out emails, it'll be on our newsletter. We'll also be putting up flyers all around campus. It's next Friday from 4:30 to 5:30, and then there'll be dinner provided. And I will be mainly facilitating that workshop, as I am currently applying to grad school and also undocumented.
beautiful. There you go. So the material that we will cover are some. Oh, there you go.
Sorry about that, guys. Hello, welcome. We just got started. So perfect timing.
So we will be covering some considerations or how to approach the law situation, state-by-state changes for how amicable it is to undocumented students in grad school. So we'll cover some resources that you can consider for when you're considering a school. What are some different pathways, professional versus research-oriented pathways, degree pathways, the requirements for an application, some things to consider for those of you that are juniors and probably considering grad school for the first time, application timelines, how do you organize those application components, some resources on that, and overall resources for funding, outlets of information, things of that nature. So again, my name is Juan Ruiz. I am the second year LALS PhD student serving undocumented student services as grad fellow for the next 2 years, and my colleague Camila.
I'm Camila. She, her AF pronouns. I'm a 4th year environmental science major, undergrad programming intern for USS.
So there are resources when you're considering school outside of the UC system or California system. Hi, welcome. Have a seat. Should we pause it in different things?
Before we get started, would you guys like to grab some snacks? Yeah. Real quick, and then also if you could just sign in for us, please. I'm so sorry for those who are
You
joining
could
us
pause the recording.
virtually. We're just like our light refreshments just came in, so we're just letting everyone grab those before we get started. I'm gonna pause the recording real quick.
There. Pause recording, pause the recording.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. So as we were saying, if you are undocumented, and California is a very supportive state, as we know, there's in-state tuition, there's non-resident tuition fee waivers, there's also institutional financial aid. And so what are other states like? It's an ever-changing climate. The National Immigration Law Center is compiling that information every year. And so this is a live document that you can access through the links, and it'll give you an idea of what sort of support is offered at every state. If you are considering, say, Michigan State for your master's PhD programs, you can see that the state is highlighted in a particular color, which offers tuition equity policies at major institutions, right? And then you can see the red states like Alabama that might ban enrollments of undocumented students. So these are just some resources that you might want to browse through to see what is the climate at other institutions that are outside of the state. As we mentioned, each state has different immigration policies in place or institutional financial aid. As you can see, California is quite welcoming and a timeline of these ever changes. You can access more information about this on the Higher Ed Immigration Portal. All of our resources have working links. Perhaps another consideration would be if you're gonna attend, let's say, if you're applying to a school near the international border or like UC San Diego, it's important to know that there might be Customs and Border Protection checkpoints within 25 to 100 miles from the border. You can see some of that highlighted here. And this is put together by the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, which also provides information on what is it like to navigate some of these spaces when you're undocumented. Maybe it's something important for you to consider. Maybe you have deferred action for childhood arrivals, and attending a school near the border is not that much of a consideration, as it might be for folks who don't benefit from deportation deferral. But we just wanted to put this out there that maybe it's one thing you want to consider, and here's the resource of how to go about that. So there are various reasons why folks might want to pursue graduate school. It might be that you want to investigate and grapple with some questions and expand your knowledge, or it's a career requirement. If you want to, say, practice law and you need a JD for that, make you a better candidate for the job market or career options when you graduate your undergraduate studies. So there's many different reasons to pursue grad school. In order to enroll in grad school, you would typically require an undergraduate degree, a bachelor's of science, bachelor's of arts, depending on the school, depending on the degree, and that pursuing a particular academic or professional degree looks different, right? The focus would be different. The number of years in a program would be different. The orientation would be different. So say, for example, master's or doctoral programs are more research-based, right? And you're contributing to what we know. You're expanding that pool of knowledge and grappling with theoretical material, as opposed to like a professional degree where it might be more hands-on, specialized professional experience, such as in law or practicing medicine, surgery, or even like pharmacy work. So there are different sorts of programs where it might be 1, 2, 3 years, such as like the examples we provided. You want to be a school principal and you require a particular degree, or if you want to do accounting work, if you want to get a credential for becoming a teacher. So there's many different pathways to consider, and we can in my work as a grad fellow and Camila's work as a USS intern, we could always do more like one-on-one orientation or grappling with like what do you want to consider and workshop things on a one-on-one basis. Finding the right program is always important. This is a place where you might spend 2 to 3 years, if not 5 to 7, if you're doing a PhD. So what is the institution like, the climate of the department, what are you trying to get out of by engaging in a program for several years at a time? It's always important to look at the faculty that are working in that program, their research, does that align with some of the things that you might be interested with? If you will be doing like a master's or doctorate program and you're considering a school, it's always important to know if that particular professor who you might be working with or doing investigative work, do they have plans on retiring? Do they have plans on teaching elsewhere at another institution or going on sabbatical to do their own research? Like these are some things that you want to consider before you're applying to the program. The worst thing to do would be to apply in your statement of purpose and mention, I want to work with so-and-so and they'll be retiring. And then your application is no longer as strong and effective. So doing some of that work of finding the right program, it requires a lot of considerations, not only the institution, what sort of support do they have for undocumented students, but the faculty you'll be working with, what are their plans? Some folks can have ideas of like, do I want to do a master's program or a PhD? There's advantages to both. If you consider enrolling in a master's program, it might give you an idea of, is this the kind of work that I want to pursue longer, or do I change disciplines? That can happen. At the same time, there are PhD programs that offer a master's in passing. So what that means is that you'll do coursework before your dissertation project, and you have an option. Do you continue to the dissertation, or do you master out per se? And you get your master's degree and you just do something else with that degree. So there are programs that will offer that option. There are programs that don't offer a master's at all. You might want to consider these things.
Welcome.
It's important to reach out not only to the faculty, the department staff, but a good strategy is to reach out to grad students, because they are the ones in that program and they can answer your questions. What is it like to work with a particular faculty member? What is the climate like between students? How supportive is the department to just individual projects? Things of that nature. Grad students are a great resource. And I think you were telling me of how you've been reaching out to grad students in other institutions.
So as someone who's currently applying for like the cycle of grad applications, so for fall 2024, it's a lot of like work on your own. Like obviously professors are going to come out and like reach out to you and be like, oh, like I want you to work for my lab, I want you to do this and this for me. I've personally been reaching out to a lot of different professors that in departments that I've been interested working with, like research work that aligns with work that I want to do. I've been reaching out specifically to the grad students. Like this morning I had a meeting with a grad student like 7 a.m. Our time, 10 a.m. East Coast time, because I wanted to ask about the specific master's program that I'm going to apply for that school. And I just getting insight from students and reaching out to current grad students helps out more than anything, more than talking to the professors, because they're going to tell you the truth. As student to student, like they're going to be honest with you. I was interested in applying to SIR in other schools, but after talking to the grad students, they're like, you're a dodge, like please dodge this bullet. Like you do not want to come here, because they'll be honest with you if you like go out of your way to make a meeting with them. Like they'll just be completely honest most of the time. So that's something that going into this whole application process, I would tell everyone to do, is like reach out to the grad students.
Oh, great, thank you. And at any point we can take questions. We don't have to wait till the end of this presentation.
How are you reaching out to these guys?
So for the different departments, most of the time they'll have like a prospective students like link or something, and you'll click on it. Either they'll have like an admissions or like a point of contact, like a person of contact, and I usually be like, hi, my name is so and so, I'm currently enrolled at this institution and I want to pursue like this. I can also like send you like a email template of what I've used previously. And they'll be like, yes, like I can connect you with this student. Or sometimes the school even has like a list of students with their emails and stuff, and like what specific specialization or concentration they focus on within the department. So like you can find someone, a grad student that is doing the work that you want to do, and you reach out to them. And obviously it's going to take some time because they're busy, they're grad students. But as long as you reach out early on in the process, then you should have no like issue talking to them.
In addition, every department has a graduate representative, which usually connects graduate student cohort concerns to the department, or they also respond to prospective students reaching out, and they'll do union work. So I serve as a grad rep this year for LALS, and I'll be talking to at least a few students a month who are saying, hey, what is it like? Can you meet with me a few minutes? Can we exchange emails? And I've done that several times. It's also an opportunity to say, would you give me some tips for my application? I've shared my statement of purpose several times with some of these students and just told them, like, if I was gonna apply again, this is what I would keep in mind in my application. So the grad students are a great resource.
Yeah, an extremely helpful resource. Like the grad student I met with this morning, she actually was able to send me both of her statements for that program that she obviously is into now, to help me with mine, because I was just told her that I was struggling with the statements. Like, I don't know what to write, like what should my focus be on, like, because for each school you're applying to, like you want to obviously entail or cater your statement towards that school, and like that's what I was struggling with. And she's like, oh, no worries, like I can help you. And she gave me like specific things that I should be writing in within my statement, so I wouldn't have thought otherwise. So that's a really helpful resource. And this is just a quote that we have, that graduation at the end, it is, I mean, it's graduation's at the end, it is just the beginning.
It's common to be, I've heard it's common to be wedded to your dissertation or your master's thesis for years after you graduate, because it's the kind of work that you're becoming an expert in, you're defending, you're showcasing your expertise, and you might publish some of this work. So it'll be a process to apply. Once you're there, it'll be the journey, and then afterwards it just continues. So make sure you find the right program and it's something you like doing. Yes.
Can you do that work while you're doing your grad school, or you need to do work before, like research before you apply?
Okay. So like showcasing research experience in an application is one thing. The other, like, you mean like your research while you're a student?
If I want to do ethnographic research, can I do it while I'm actually in grad school, and that will be my thesis or statement?
Yeah, so for example, in the social sciences, ethnographic work in, say, anthropology, right? If you enroll in a master's or PhD program in anthropology, for example, you will have coursework that you have to do. Just like your undergrad general education or major requirements, you will have coursework. So that's one thing. The department will make sure that you gain a theoretical immersion into anthropology. And in that coursework, there will always be seminar papers or projects in which you can start not only showing the coursework objectives you meet, but you get the opportunity to do your project. You start working through some of the topics you would do for your dissertation. So after you do your coursework, you have qualifying examinations. Qualifying examinations look different in every department, but they showcase that you achieve master's level understanding in that discipline. And for example, in my department, you have 1 year to complete 2 field statements, which basically translate to 2 essays in 2 particular thematic clusters. And then you have to also present 2 syllabi for classes you would teach, and a prospectus of like, what is my dissertation going to focus on? And if it's ethnographic work, like who am I going to be working with? What are going to be my methods? Who am I going to be engaging? What does it look like for the next 3 years to do this project? So that's what makes a PhD program, for example, 5 to 7 years, 2 years of coursework, 1 year of exams, 2 to 3 years of your project, your dissertation project. So throughout that time, how you strategize and incorporate the kind of ethnographic work that you're immersing into, it's up to you. It's up to how the department allows you to do these things, your advisor allowing you to do these things. These are the kind of questions that you can ask a grad student. In LALS, it would look different than, I don't know, Berkeley might be very strict, right? Like we're talking about migration and sexuality in the seminar, focus on that. And they don't allow you to veer too much off of that in your ethnographic work. My department is very welcoming. They always say, I'm teaching you about migration and sexuality in this seminar, but tie it into your overall project. And then you get to grapple with that all the time. It depends how the department allows you. Thank you for the question. So general application requirements, I believe the most important one will always be the statement of purpose. It's always the first thing that is read by the department, and basically showcases, this is why I'm a good match with your department. This is what I'm gonna come and do there. And then it speaks to, I am aware of that department and of me, and this is why we're a perfect match. The other application component that is very important after that would be the letters of recommendation, because the department will say, okay, we are a match. Let's see who's recommending you. Let's see what they have to say about you, letters of recommendation. And perhaps a writing sample or a portfolio of your work. So like, let's see, what have you done? What have you engaged with? You will have to turn in unofficial transcripts which show your trajectory. Departments might offer a resume which showcases your work experience. Others require a CV, which is like, what internships and fellowships, what research have you produced? And a personal statement, or often called the personal diversity statement, is sometimes optional for applications, sometimes mandatory. And the idea with the personal diversity statement is, how can we match you to particular funding options we have? So then your particular walk of life, what makes you a diverse student? What are some of the obstacles that you had to navigate, and how did you overcome those? Maybe it alludes to identity, your gender identity, your ethnic identity, your ability, disability. So personal diversity statement might be a component. Yeah, I think that's how it important.
So for the statement of purpose, just to be clear, there might be different ones for every program you apply to, so you might have to write more than one.
So once you have you're settled in like the research topics that you explore, right? The purpose of why you're going to grad school. You have like this core statement that you morph and tweak a little bit to each department you're applying. Because you might personalize like the first line. I'm applying to the social sciences and psychology at Berkeley, as opposed to the School of Education and UCR, or whatever. You might tweak these little details, but you would already have an idea of like, you're doing the type of social psychology, it's like, this is the area, and this department offers it, this other one doesn't. So you tweak those little details for every statement. One good practice is to, like in your Google Drive, create a folder. Statement of purpose for Berkeley, statement of purpose for, or just like your application for UC Berkeley, for Michigan, for NYU. And then you keep those application components separate, titled. They will change subtly. Once you
Every
get- yeah.
school requires different things. So not every school will require like a statement of purpose, or they will require a statement of purpose, but like their specific instructions on what they want to see within the statement of purpose will differ from like a different institution. But for the most part, like Juan was saying, like your statement of purpose is what have you done up until now that makes you a qualified candidate for this specific program, and then why is this program a good fit for you? So like you can really change like what you've done, right? Like within your academic career, that stays the same. What really changes between the different institutions is like, why are you a good fit for that specific school?
Okay, and then one last thing, the exemption, so typically how much are applications?
They vary from like $50 to like $100. If you qualify for Cal Grant here or like you get financial aid, most of the time, honestly, what I've personally been doing, because I have like Cal Grant A, I've just been emailing them. I've emailed like their financial aid for that specific grad school, and I'm like, hey, I get financial aid at UCSC, like can I get a fee waiver? Like I can't afford this. And they have emailed me back and said like, yeah, of course, just submit your application, and once you have that submitted, get back to me and we can waive the fee for your application. It's just a matter of reaching out to all the different like resources.
Yeah.
How about the resume, if you're undocumented?
The resume, if you are undocumented.
We don't know what work permit, so they don't have like work experience.
It depends on like the program that you're specifically applying to, because sometimes they don't ask for a resume, they ask for a CV.
With career success, that's a great question. With career success, they like part of that grad school fair they're having today at Stevenson, they have different workshops, and one of them is like preparing your CV or resume, right? We are in conversation with them. In the winter and spring, we're gonna offer workshops through USS to unpack like what are the experiences that you have that you might not think are traditional professional experience, but meets work experience, and how do you translate those skills and that experience into a resume entry. So we're doing that. We're gonna do that. If you want to do that before the end of the quarter, because you might be applying to grad school, we can set you up so that we can work on that directly. But we all have experience, we all work somehow, even though it seems like I was not hired traditionally and I can't put it on a resume. There's ways to morph other things that you might have done, and you can compile the resume. And we'll do that eventually.
Yeah, and then also to emphasize, our next workshop is like specifically catered towards all of these requirements, which is next Friday.
Just a little bit that we can touch on the difference of the personal statement and statement of purpose, but I think Camila summed it up beautifully of how some of the things you've done already that line you up with this discipline, but like why that school is particularly the perfect match. That was a great way to put it. Personal statement, as I said, is for financial aid considerations. You are hired is the word for when you're admitted into a grad program as a cohort. So even though you might feel like you lack certain abilities or you are of a particular walk of life, the cohort might be 3 to 5 students, 7 students. Each student brings something different to that department. So be true to yourself, be genuine. Um, so it's your personal trajectory, it presents your skills and character as a person, your personal statement, how you overcame adversity. We covered that. Statement of purpose is more like research oriented. Why are you the particular perfect match? Why are you the perfect person for this cohort that they're hiring? Okay. You might want to highlight aspects of that department, mention 2 to 3 faculty that you would work with, their research. They all look a little bit. Not all departments, not all applications, again, require letters of recommendation. There are some state programs, master's programs like at CSU that don't require letters of rec at all. There are other more prestigious institutions that will be investing in your education a lot more that require those letters of rec. And you want to request strong letters of recommendation from someone who you work with or took a course with, preferably the faculty member, not the TA. Preferably not somebody who tells you prepare the letter and I'll sign it. That's never a good sign. When you request a letter of recommendation, if we go to the next slide, we provide a sample of how to initiate those conversations with faculty, right? And it's something like, Professor so-and-so, I took your course, this academic quarter, this is the letter, this is the grade that I received, this is an example of the work that I produced for you, and I'm applying to all these things, right? Want to discuss the possibility of getting a letter of recommendation, and the more information you provide them, the better. So it's always good to say, here's the statement of purpose I'm preparing. Here's a copy of my transcripts. Here's a writing sample of submitting, things of that nature. The more you make their work easier, the better. Some faculty members will have a Google form that says, tell me the department you're applying, tell me the deadlines, tell me what courses you took with me, how I know you. And they create the letter that way. It depends on who you're asking, how many letters you need.
Most of the time, universities ask for 3 letters of rec. I would recommend to ask professors or faculty members who you have a relationship with, that they know you beyond like, oh, they're a good student level. You know what I mean? Like, you want the letter of recommendation to be strong. It can't just be a professor you took a course with like so-and-so quarters ago. Because a lot of people, they do that mistake and then they don't get into the program because they had weak letters, even though they're a really qualified candidate.
You might be concerned, I don't have a good relationship with the professor, it's late in the game, how do I get that letter? One thing I advise is going to office hours at the beginning of a quarter and say, Professor, I'm gonna take your course. I'm gonna ask for a letter of rec at the end of the quarter. Please be looking out for my work. Like, pay particular attention to my work and start that relationship. You can do this respectfully. They're here to support you. They went through it. They will write you a letter, especially if you give them time in advance. And if you're intentional and bring it up, like, it's gonna happen. I need your help for the next step. So look out for my work. And that can be a relationship that you build, and that particular essay or course material that you produce is something that you can continue to work with and perhaps submit it as your sample for your application. Some application timelines for folks that are in their 3rd year considering grad school for the first time. You might want to start at least a year in advance, right? Where the summer looks like you start browsing through programs, you start narrowing down your interests. What about psychology? What about anthropology? What are the different sort of computer science programs that are out there, right? And why do you want to go to particular ones over others? Look for programs, and you might want to start preparing for what are some grad required examinations that you need to take. So for example, if you want to go into law school, you need to prepare for the LSAT. If you want to go to medical school, for the MCAT. Business school, the GMAT, or in the humanities or social sciences, you might have to do the GRE. During the pandemic, a lot of the schools waived those examinations. So you might have to look at, like, are they still waived or is it a requirement? A lot of schools have been pushing towards, let's get rid of the GREs examinations altogether. They don't showcase students' comprehensive ability in grad school. It's more like, what is their ability to take the test? Because it's a certain way to that you gotta take the test. So start looking into some of these required examinations. On the fall, you would start working on your applications, requesting those letters of recommendation, start drafting your personal statements, things of that nature. Identify someone who is willing to work with you, a faculty professor. This is what my statement of purpose looks like. Can we draft it out? Things like that, well in advance. Winter would look like maintain your grades. Look at those funding applications, start submitting some of them, and in the spring you would get admission responses. So if you're applying, let's say in December or January, you would get an admission response on or about March, late February or March. And then you have until June usually to make a decision of where you're gonna where you're intending to register. It's called the SIR. And then afterwards is a lot of, like, you hear from schools that say, we offer you this financial aid package, we offer you nothing, we offer you, and then you start negotiating with schools that admitted you. That is very common.
Yeah, just because they say they'll give you this certain amount, you can fight your way to get more. It never hurts to ask for more because the worst they can do is say no.
Negotiate TA assignments, negotiate summer funding, cost of living, a lot of things. Organizing and deciding. So as we said before, important factors might be like the location, is the state undocumented friendly, financial aid packages, do they offer in-state tuition, grants or fellowships? On your behalf as a grad fellow, and Camila may and want to also do this, is that we can be the buffer between you and grad programs and say, I have a student who is requesting information on financial aid for undocumented students, right? What sort of offers do you have? What sort of aid? And we can be that buffer in reaching out to folks at other institutions. And you might always want to ask, what are the resources that you have which might not be transparent on a website? So for undocumented students, there are institutional incentives that sometimes don't get showcased as much for fear of pushback. So I've taken on internships before where it's like, we don't make it very public because we don't know if the institution will be afraid and then say, stop this when we're not doing anything wrong. And so then some of us might have institutional cultural capital where like they know you and they're willing to push for these incentives and other folks can benefit, but it's not showcased publicly. So it's always good to ask, what is out there that we don't know about? One thing that I advise, just because we all have different abilities and different anxieties, different walk of life, there will always be this section in the application that says, is there anything else that you would like to tell us that you didn't already tell us in your statement of purpose and in your personal statement, whatever. Make advantage of this, take advantage of this in ways that I have is perhaps you don't do well on that standardized test on the GRE and you score low. And maybe you have a history of not doing well on standardized tests, but that's not an indication to your critical thinking ability, to your ability to teach, to produce work. So then maybe you place a note on there. Maybe you had a W on your transcript, right? And there was a family emergency. There was something that happened in life that you can't explain elsewhere. Maybe it's a good time to say, during academic quarter 2020, 21, I had COVID and I withdrew from courses. But this is not an indication of my commitment to higher ed. Whatever. You can do many things with that one question, if you want to use it in non-legal plan. Organization is key. You might want to create a spreadsheet ahead of time and start doing a wish list of programs, some folks that you would have to reach out to, what are the major application components, required, those deadlines. Preparing for those standardized examinations look different. Maybe you prepare for your GRE in the summer, very intensely, a few hours a day for the whole summer. Or maybe you get a book from the library, like on the outset, and you read a few pages a day. You have to become acquainted with these exams if the school you're applying to requires them. Applying for fee waivers, every school will be different. So organizing your application components is crucial. This is going to be like an additional course you're taking or an additional side job you're doing because it's going to be very self-driven. Camila discovered some resources that allow you to track some of these schools. There's a lot of applications. You can also just create a spreadsheet yourself of some of the major things you need to consider. But these are working links that will take you to some of these resources so you can organize your information. And overall, in preparing for tests, now we're just going to give you some resources or other outlets of information or where we got some of this information. There are online prep courses for some of these grad programs. Some universities offer them for free with your student account. And look into Magoosh. They offer like preparation for the LSAT or the GRE. When you are considering grad school, as we said earlier, outside of state, there's great resources like the New York State Leadership Council provided this 104-page resource on what are the schools in what are the laws in every state, and how do you go about asking for letters of rec? What are like things to consider when you're applying? There's a lot more in-depth information with this resource. And that's a working link for you. Navigating grad school in general, if you are not already familiar with my Undocumented Life blog, put together by Carolina Valdivia years ago, it has been only growing much more. It covers all things being undocumented in academia. There's a lot of opportunities too for funding, scholarships, and stories by folks who navigated grad school. My Undocumented Life blog. Pre-health dreamers for folks interested in pursuing medical school or health-related grad programs. And when you are applying to grad school, it doesn't hurt to complete your California Dream Act application, because even though it's not necessarily tied to your financial aid package, it will help to showcase your expected family contribution, and it will serve as a document for proof when you're doing scholarship applications or fellowship applications of your need. The equivalent to FAFSA, the California Dream Act application. It doesn't hurt to complete it because some schools might have scholarships tied to it, even though when you apply to undergrad, the school is financing your education. When you're applying to a grad program, it's that particular department. And so then that means a lot of things. The department has funds to retain you, where they might be able to give you a fellowship that is not tied to teaching, to being a TA. And if you are undocumented and don't have work authorization, you're not able to TA. So then it helps to have a department that has the funds to retain you without TA-ship appointments. So it's important to know that you're applying to the department. You're not necessarily applying to the school. It's the department that is funding you. I would still complete the California Dream Act application just because it still serves elsewhere. And Immigrants Rising has a variety of resources from entrepreneurship to going to grad school, downloadable resources on. They also have a search engine for looking for scholarships and fellowships for grad school with your particular markers. MA program, law school, whatever. Financial aid options, Maldiv provides like a 80+ page list of scholarships and fellowships every year. And not all are law school oriented. They offer a variety of scholarships. There are institutional fellowships that are offered to undocumented students regardless of their status, whether they have work authorization or not. UCLA had the 8540 presidential fellowship for students, which was not tied to work authorization. It depends where you're applying. If schools have that option, like do they have internal fellowships that no other UC has? Even though UCLA had it, we didn't have it. Other UCs didn't have it. But I provide a link just so you can have access to that model, because it doesn't hurt to reach out to schools and say, hey, there's this other school with this internal fellowship that we could probably model something after. And we could help you with that and reaching out to schools. There's also other external fellowships. So say you go to you're enrolling in a program and that institution might not be able to fund you. There are financial aid sources outside that you can bring to the table. So for example, the Paul D. Soros Fellowship for New Americans is open to DACA students. And they award like $25,000 a year, which goes towards your degree. And so it helps to bring a fellowship fund from outside the institution if they are not offering you one. There's other programs that help you with like fee waivers. The Institute of Recruitment of Teachers, the IRT, for those of you that are interested in teaching or getting a PhD to teach, they are a great program that they bring you to Boston, you immerse with a grad mentor. They help you out with all the application components, and they pay for 14 applications, I believe, before you end the program. So it's good to look out for these sort of programs that will fly you out somewhere, give you a summer living stipend, and you get to meet a place, you get to create relationships with other mentors, and it's geared to preparing you to apply to grad school.
I was a part of the Summer Research Opportunities Program at the University of Michigan this past summer. They're an R1 institution, so Research One institution, and they're a part of the Big Ten, which is like these top 10 Research One institutions. And as a part of SROP, which is at all of those universities, I'm able to apply to all of those schools for free because I was a part of this specific program. So if you do internships or fellowships, like ask about fee waivers if for the future, because you don't know if like they'll probably give it to you.
That is what we have to bring to the table. Thank you, Camila.
Yeah, thank you for coming, guys. This QR link is just like an evaluation form. And then I also have more like
Valuation feedback,
Yeah.
maybe things you might want us to cover in the next session.
Here's the USS email if you have any questions, and then I also put our Instagram there for if you guys want to follow us. We've been working on increasing our engagement in our activity on Instagram, so we'll repost everything that like is going on within EOP and USS, like our specific workshops and stuff, and also like throughout campus. So if you guys want to follow the UndocuSlugs Instagram.
And we can take any questions you all have,
Yeah.
or the virtual attendance. And then stop the recording. Yes, question.
I have a question. Are we gonna get those slides?
The what?
Will we get those slides emailed?
Yeah,
We're working on getting it sent out through the next USS newsletter.
slides and the presentation.
Yes,
Yeah.
the recording, which I will end now.
We have questions on the chat.
Oh, they didn't come up.
A template would be amazing. Oh, for the emails and for reaching out.
Is the grad professional measures mainly concerned that?
Is the grad process between all majors mainly concerned at engineering master's programs? So,
I'm confused. I'm confused by what you're trying to ask. Like, are you asking, is the grad process, like the same regarding engineering masters? Engineering master's program, so like STEM, I'm currently applying to one. For the most part, it's the same. It just depends on like the requirements that that specific school wants you to ask. So like the statement of purpose and the academic statement, like those are the only things that really matter. I mean, the only things that really change. And also like for most engineering or like STEM students, you don't need to take the GRE anymore, but for some like social sciences, you do need to. I do know about it. I know a little bit about the 4+1 master's pathway here at UCSC for my specific department. I'm a part of the Earth and Planetary Science department. You need to be, in order to apply to that, you need to be working with a research lab at UCSC. I don't know if that's different for engineering because I'm not a part of the School of Engineering here. And my department just hosted like an info session on the 4+1 master's pathway. So if you're in the engineering department, they could have potentially already have done the info session or will be in the future. That's probably something that you should ask your advisor.
Are you guys gonna be acting today?
I don't think so. I'm not gonna be able to make it because I have another commitment. I have to read and write paper by today, but we
I'm
are
gonna
going,
stop the recording now.
we are going to work with